are amazing. $50 extra in your bank account, amazing. A campfire smoke, amazing. Mosh pit, amazing. Slow dancing with someone you love, amazing. These poets are simply amazing.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube. I'm Joe Atticus Inch, and welcome to this week's edition of Poet Love. This week on Poet Love, we talk about one of my favorite people in the poetry scene in the entire world. Anyone who's met this guy knows just how swell of a guy he is. We're talking about Wonder Dave. Wonder Dave is a poet and performer originally from Minnesota, now resides out in the San Francisco, California area. He's represented in both Minnesota and Berkeley at the National Poetry Slam, Individual Poetry Slam. He was also the editor of Microphone Minnesota and host of various slam teams. He's also the author of this wonderful chapbook, Secret Identity, and one of the reason this show's called Poet Love. Yeah. Wonder Dave signed this back for me back in 2010, before I even thought of the concept of a web series talking about poets. Like I said, Wonder Dave is one of my favorite people of all time in this poetry slam. He is one of the nicest. I am going on record as saying he is in the top 5 of the nicest poets I've met in this scene. And the work is wonderful. When I first met Wonder Dave back in 2008 at the first Rust Belt Regional Poetry Slam that I attended, which was my first big, I believe I've talked about it before, it was one of my first big poetry events where I got to meet and see poets from outside the Columbus area, and Dave was on the Columbus team, Minnesota team, same team where I first met Sam Cooke, Sierra DeMulder. Yeah, so we talked about Sam before. We will get to Sierra eventually. And the first thing that took me was being new to the Poetry Slam team at that time. I know it's a little bit of a gimmick, but it works so well for him. I remember him in about performing his poem, the first poem that I ever heard him perform, which was Dr. Jekyll and Mr Homophobia, which is, as the title suggests, it is a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde performance poetry piece. We're talking about fears people may have with homosexuals, and discussing and disproving the fears that people will have with homosexuals to what many people sadly probably honestly think would happen if they were to meet a homosexual, have their children around a homosexual, have a homosexual doctor. And the gimmick was he had 2 microphones on the stage, and he would switch back and forth between the microphones when he was in the Dr. Jekyll and the Mr. Homophobia piece. And it was just the way he used his body and the way he twisted his voice. It brought so much to the piece, and the humor to it. And like I said, I mean, just from that was the first piece. And in my mass spending spree, that's where I got about a good 20% of my poetry collection was from that Rust Belt. Because I was just so enthralled of hearing everybody from different areas and talk about everything. And one of the first CDs that I bought was Wonder Dave's CD. Unfortunately, I don't have that CD anymore because someone decided to eat it. That person could not be brought in for questioning because it's his nap time. Though I think I hear him crying right now. But from there, I mean, I still remember, I listened to that CD a lot. I let a lot of my friends listen to the CD because the work on that CD was wonderful, and I'm very still mad at someone for eating that CD. But between, like, Dr. Jekyll and Mr Homophobia is on there. Me and Eddie Gein, A Love Story, Autumn is Burning, Just Stop Bitching. Those were all showed the range of Wonder Dave and the creativity of Wonder Dave. I mean, Autumn is Burning is a very different kind of mellow, almost classical per se sense of poetry. But and then there's of course this book, which when he gave it to me, I was just great because then I had Wonder Dave in writing and I could actually read. And there's such great poems in here, such as Delia has her say, for the boy who shoved carnations in gun barrels, and of course, nerd sex. But it really wouldn't matter to me if, I mean, don't get me wrong, the poetry is fantastic, but Wonder Dave as a person, he deserves the title Wonder because he is a wonder. He is just a great ball of energy. He brings up so much positivity in whatever room he's in. After I saw him at the 2008 Rust Belt, and didn't see him again until 2010, the first year that the Women of the World Poetry Slam was here in Columbus, and it was just like when we met up again at the volunteer meeting, it was just like that time span hadn't been there. He's just such a wonderful guy. For even the shortest amount of reactions to people, he treats you like you're the closest friend. And I just love the guy. I really hated when I heard he was moving to the West Coast, because that means he wouldn't be out here as much anymore, and I missed the guy. I haven't seen him perform since 2000, since he did a open mic in the 2011 Women of the World Poetry Slam, part of the volunteer. It was an open mic beforehand where he had a wonderful piece about Harley Quinn. I can't remember the title about it, but Harley Quinn from the Batman comics and television shows. It was such a good piece. I wish I had that in writing or some way to listen to it, but I really don't know what else to say. Wonder Dave is one of the nicest people. I keep reinforcing that because, like, I keep telling people, if the poetry is good, I'll become a fan of yours. But if your poetry is good and you are a genuinely good person, you have all my respect and love in the world. And Wonder Dave falls into that category. I hope the best for Wonder Dave, wherever he ends up, whatever he does. I hope he makes it out here sometime soon, or sometime in the near future. I would love to see him again. And I hope you all, anyone who views this, will support Wonder Dave and just connect with his work. And on that sappy note, it's Magic Shoebox time again. So draw out the name for next week's Poet Love episode. I got some skills I need to develop again. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Joe Atticus Inch, reminding you to keep your pens moving, live long and prosper. I'll see you next week.